My girlfriend's father personally taught me engineering and mechanics for a whole decade, yet the exact moment the buy family group stood on the brink of total bankruptcy, I walked away without a single shred of mercy. I even coldly stood by and watched them get utterly hounded by creditors, reduced to absolute vagrants on the streets, all because in my past life, Bai Ningbing's precious childhood sweetheart and white moonlight, Qin Shu, desperately sought to snatch a German joint venture project from me. He secretly launched a rogue, unsupervised, live-field experiment on a next-generation battery type, behind everyone's backs. Naturally, the battery violently exploded, causing the Bai family group to plunge into catastrophic bankruptcy overnight. Back then, I didn't hesitate to marry Bai Ningbing and took full responsibility for the disastrous mess Qin Shu left behind. I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into engineering a groundbreaking new generation of smart electric vehicles single-handedly, dragging the ruined Bai family from the ashes of bankruptcy straight back to the absolute pinnacle of the industry. Yet on the historic day the company went public, Bai Ningbing, right at the high-profile ringing ceremony, publicly accused me of murdering Qin Shu and shamelessly stealing his technological achievements. The entire Bai family viciously branded me a wolf in sheep's clothing and an ungrateful, treasonous bastard. Bai Ningbing even had me thrown behind bars, leaving me to be brutally tortured to death. In that final agonizing second, I was suddenly reborn back to the precise day Old Master Bai was deciding on the head of the new electric vehicle project. Old Master Bai sat commanding the room from a head seat. Xiao Yuan, both you and Shu are children I've watched grow up since infancy. But the director for this new project can only be one person. Without waiting for anyone else, I immediately declined the offer. Grandfather Bai, my current capabilities are far too limited to shoulder such a massive burden. However, Qin Shu is an absolute prodigy. Among men, he is undoubtedly the one who can guide the corporation out of this crisis. Old Master Bai's face instantly twisted with rage, his voice booming. Xiao Yuan, do you even realize what the hell you are saying right now? I stood up, calmly shifting my gaze over to Bai Ningbing. Grandfather Bai, my skills are genuinely insufficient, and I cannot possibly anchor the Fengqi project. Qin Shu possesses brilliant innate talent, and his forward-thinking concepts are light years ahead of our time, making him infinitely more qualified than me. Besides, I'm sure Ningbing thoroughly agrees with my assessment, doesn't she? Seeing me become so incredibly cooperative, is exponentially more qualified than me. Furthermore, Ningbing completely concurs with everything I've just stated, right? Seeing me play my cards so perfectly, her eyes flashed icy cold, as if saying, at least you have enough self-awareness. No matter if it's pure technical skill or seniority, I am infinitely more suited for this position than Qin Shu. Before today, everyone in the company had completely taken it for granted that I would spearhead this project. The marriage between myself and Bai Ningbing was also set to successfully follow suit, guaranteeing a perfect future. But in this lifetime, the chilly, detached gaze of Bai Ningbing locked directly onto me, and I instantly realized the truth. She had also been reborn back to the past. Since you were so utterly desperate to save your precious childhood sweetheart, I will absolutely not stand in your way anymore. Without uttering a single word, Bai Ningbing turned on her heel and stormed straight out of the conference room. I knew exactly where she was heading. Right now, Qin Shu was in the middle of testing his rogue battery solution. That specific explosion is destined to claim his life. But there's still just enough time for her to save him. Left standing alone on the spot, my heart felt completely frozen and hollow. A whole decade of being husband and wife in our previous life couldn't even compete with her blind favoritism toward Qin Shu. Xiao Yuan, do you even realize what the hell you were saying? Old Master Bai's heavy walking cane slammed violently against the floor. I met his deeply disappointed gaze. The elderly gentleman who had personally mentored me in engineering was now staring at me with absolute bewilderment. I calmly spoke up. Grandfather Bai, Ningbing's heart belongs entirely to Qin Shu. I will no longer compete. Old Master Bai and Madame Bai exchanged a tense glance, thinking back to Bai Ningbing's absolute, unhesitating departure. Just moments ago. Any words of reprimand, they had completely died in their throats. I silently walked back to my room, packing merely a few changes of clothes, along with a single, portable hard drive containing the core algorithm of the project. By the next morning, a company-wide internal email officially announced the new executive appointment. Qin Shu was named the Supreme Director of the Fengqi project, accompanied by a picture of his incredibly smug, triumphant face. I slid the hard drive into my backpack, completely devoid of any emotion. As midday approached, a heated, violent shouting match erupted from the office floor. Downstairs, standing at the far end of the corridor, I could hear the furious roar of Qin Shu. Ningbing, you promised me, as long as I became the Supreme Director, you would immediately hand over the German joint venture partnership directly to me. Why the hell is his name still officially listed on the documents? Bai Ningbing, completely exasperated, replied, listen to me, Shu. All the early stage technical exchanges and foundational frameworks for that partnership were meticulously built by Xiao Yuan. If we suddenly swap him out now, the German side will aggressively raise serious objections. I don't give a damn. Qin Shu snapped with intense dissatisfaction. I am the true future of the Bai family, Ningbing. Are you really going to trust some random outsider over me? Securing that German partnership was the absolute master key for the Bai Corporation to import the absolute latest next-generation battery management architecture. In my previous life, I was the one who personally secured this lucrative deal and heavily optimized it from the ground up, single-handedly turning the Bai family's new electric vehicle into a monumental, record-breaking success. Bai Ningbing knew this chilling fact all too well. A few minutes later, my phone suddenly buzzed. It was a call from Old Master Bai. The elderly gentleman sat behind his desk, looking utterly drained and exhausted. Xiao Yuan, regarding this matter, I have truly failed you. A sudden epiphany hit me. So, Bai Ningbing had actually forcefully stripped the lead director role for the German partnership and handed it on a silver platter to Qin Shu. I calmly responded, Grandfather Bai, you don't need to say another word. I completely understand. Old Master Bai slowly raised his head to look at me, his eyes filled with a deeply complex emotion. He had always treated me like his own flesh and blood, but torn between the relentless demands of his biological granddaughter and the strategic successor he desperately hoped for. He ultimately chose to indulge Bai Ningbing's whims. I reached into my backpack and pulled out the external hard drive that contained the absolute accumulation of my life's work, placing it gently right before him. Encrypted inside that drive was every single piece of core data and proprietary technical blueprints for the Fengqi project, including the highly sensitive compliance files intended for the German executives. Every single file contained within this drive was the pure crystallization of my sleepless nights and grueling labor. Staring into my eerily calm demeanor, Old Master Bai's lips trembled violently, yet he couldn't summon the strength to utter a single word. I stood up, rendering a deeply respectful, solemn bow to him. Grandfather Bai, the invaluable mentorship and wisdom you've given me over all these years, I Xiao Yuan will cherish and remember it for the rest of my life. The exact moment. At that precise moment, Bai Ningbing and Qin Shu aggressively pushed the door open and walked in. So, did he finally agree? Bai Ningbing didn't even deign to cast a single glance at me, directing her question straight to Old Master Bai. The elderly man slowly nodded his head as Qin Shu eagerly reached out to snatch the external hard drive. I abruptly spoke up, interrupting him. Hold on a second. Qin Shu instantly went on high alert, glaring intently at me. Xiao Yuan, what the hell are you trying to pull now? I merely shook my head and pulled out a fresh document from my folder. This contains the most critical asset regarding our joint venture with the German side, the absolute latest battery safety protocol. I only finalized the data yesterday, so I haven't had the chance to upload it to the hard drive yet. Qin Shu aggressively snatched the paperwork, scanning the incredibly stringent regulatory terms and strict data parameters outlined within it. After reviewing them briefly, he realized the compliance standards for this specific agreement were extraordinarily high. If even a single minor metric fails to meet the criteria, the German executives will immediately revoke our multi-million-dollar technical license, meaning the massive initial capital we already invested will be completely flushed down the drain. I kept my voice entirely deadpan. With that brilliant technical solution of yours, meeting the safety requirements of this protocol shouldn't pose any real issue, right? Qin Shu's face instantly flushed crimson, but he still stubbornly forced a defensive, icy sneer. Quit trying to rely on cheap fear-mongering. It's just a standard safety compliance agreement, isn't it? I can easily re-engineer this whole thing in a matter of minutes. I chose not to say another word. That pathetic blueprint of his, which completely sacrifices structural safety just to chase higher performance metrics, was basically a ticking time bomb. Bai Ningbing then spoke up, her voice freezing cold. You are officially dismissed. As of this exact moment, the Bai Corporation and you, Xiao Yuan, are completely cut off and have zero affiliation. Just as I turned to make my ultimate exit, Qin Shu suddenly called out, halting me in my tracks. Hold your horses. Since Xiao Yuan is no longer steering this corporate project, he can no longer be considered a part of the elite by family circle. Right. According to corporate policy, absolutely everything he currently uses belongs entirely to the Bai estate. Before he sneaks out the door, shouldn't he strip down and leave every single asset behind? Ningbing, am I right? Or am I right? I slowly turn around, completely ignoring the incredibly smug, punchable look plastered across Qin Shu's face, fixing my gaze solely on Bai Ningbing. Is this your final decree as well? She stood there frozen, her eyes desperately shifting away to avoid making direct contact. She stood there, her eyes darting away in a guilty evasion. Yet, in the end, her silence was absolute confirmation. Hearing this utterly shameless demand, old Master Bai flew into a colossal rage, violently smashing his teacup straight onto the marble floor. Insolent brats. Xiao Yuan has dedicated 8 grueling years to the Bai family. Even if he doesn't become my grandson-in-law, he is still practically my own flesh and blood. Grandfather, Bai Ningbing finally broke her silence, but her words were completely laced with favoritism for Qin Shu. Shu is absolutely right. Since he's choosing to leave, we must settle the books with absolute clarity to prevent any future messy entanglements. Staring at her cold face, a mocking smile suddenly broke across my lips. Grandfather Bai, since this is Ningbing's ultimate decree, I will gladly comply. However, if we are truly going to audit the books, then I believe I have a few accounts of my own to settle. I entered the Bai estate at the young age of 20, learning the core pillars of engineering under your guidance. As of today, it has been exactly 8 full years. Qin Shu let out an incredibly scornful, arrogant sneer. Oh, so now you're trying to leverage the past, just to beg for pity and overstate your worth? I cast a deadpan glance at him, continuing smoothly in my second year at the firm. I single-handedly overhauled the entire assembly line flow, effectively slashing operational costs by over $3 million annually for the corporation. In my 4th year, the comprehensive chassis optimization blueprint that I spearheaded enabled the Bai family to secure the single largest government procurement contract of that entire fiscal year. In my 6th year, to permanently solve the critical issue of engine overheating, I methodically listed out every single major achievement, one devastating milestone at a time. With every consecutive project I named, the color drained rapidly from Bai Ningbing's face, her complexion growing more deathly pale by the second. When you compound all of these breakthroughs together, the sheer, staggering profit I generated for the Bai Corporation over these past 8 years has long eclipsed and paid back tenfold everything the Bai family ever spent on me. Bai Ningbing's lips were pressed into a razor-thin, anxious line. She was vividly, intimately aware of the colossal weight of these massive tech achievements. In our past life, the Bai family relied entirely on this exact technological foundation to pull off their miraculous resurrection from absolute ruin under my expert leadership. The Bai family sheltered me for 8 years, and in return, I literally bled and broke my back for the Bai family for those exact 8 years. The mental and physical toll I poured into this corporation is more than enough to completely wipe the slate clean with Grandfather Bai. From this exact second onward, we are completely square. Neither owes the other a damn thing. Chin Shu broke into another bizarre, heavily mocking laugh. Talk is cheap, loser. That luxury sports car you're driving. That prime estate mansion you're sleeping in. Which of those actually belongs to you? He aggressively took several strides forward, pointing his finger directly at the car, key fob tucked inside my pocket. I'm betting this elite ride was entirely subsidized by the corporate expense account, right? He then pointed mockingly at the luxury watch strapped to my wrist. And this ultra-rare, high-end timepiece over here, it's also a corporate asset, isn't it? Worth nearly a cool $1 million, am I right? A broke, penniless loser. Like you could never afford this luxury on your own. Finally, he jabbed a finger directly at the stack of deeds on the desk. And what about that high-end penthouse over at Guanlon Mansion registered under your name? That was also a generous handout from the old master, wasn't it? Every single one of these elite luxury perks, which one of them didn't come from the deep pockets of the Bai family? I completely ignored his pathetic jeering, keeping my eyes locked intensely onto Bai Ningbing. Yet she remained absolutely silent. Bai Ningbing, I couldn't help but demand. On your birthday that year, the promises you whispered right into my ear. Have you really forgotten them entirely? She finally squeezed out 2 words from between her tightly gritted teeth. I've forgotten. I truly believed that being reborn into a second lifetime meant this battered heart of mine had already turned into absolute stone. I never expected that those 2 words would still stab deep, causing an excruciating sting, forcing down the sharp, suffocating pain tightening inside my chest. I slowly began unbuckling the luxury timepiece from my wrist. The elderly master abruptly shot up from his chair. Xiao Yuan, don't do this. Grandfather Bai. I cut him off smoothly, placing the gleaming watch directly onto the glass table. Rules are rules. The sports car keys, the smart keys, to the penthouse. I retrieved them one by one, lining them up neatly right next to the watch. Finally, I unbuttoned the expensive designer suit jacket I was wearing, folded it with absolute precision, and laid it gently on the desk, leaving me in nothing but a thin, vulnerable white dress shirt. The disgusting face of that absolute animal, Chin Shu, flashed with pure malicious ecstasy from his petty revenge. Bai Ningbing finally cracked under the tension, snapping at me to stop. Enough. Quit dragging this dramatic performance out. I locked eyes with her with eerie calmness. From this exact second onward, I belong solely to myself. I'm just Xiao Yuan. I'm no longer the destined live-in son-in-law of the Bai Empire. Slipping my backpack onto my shoulders, I walked out of the executive office. The corridor was heavily packed with gossiping employees, eagerly watching the drama unfold. On the company's internal corporate forum, the official announcement of my termination had already been pinned directly to the very top. The mocking, judgmental glares from my former colleagues stabbed into my back like venomous needles. Look, there he is. That's him. The pathetic parasitic live-in groom has finally been thrown out on his ass. He seriously thought he could play the role of a royal prince forever, didn't he? He clearly forgot to look in the mirror and check his own trashy background. Without the immense backing of the Bai family, what the hell? Is a nobody like him even worth? Exactly. Without the backing of the Bai clan, what does he think he even amounts to? I mean, drag my incredibly heavy, exhausted steps right through the mocking crowd. The exact moment I stepped past the corporate entrance gates of the group, a sleek black sedan abruptly pulled up and stopped dead in front of me. The tinted window smoothly rolled down, revealing the stern, authoritative face of a middle-aged man. Excuse me, are you Comrade Xiao Yuan? We are dispatched directly from a State Engineering Research Institute. Our director urgently requests your presence for an official consultation. I tightened the straps of my backpack and stepped inside the unmarked black sedan. The vehicle glided smoothly toward the outskirts of the city, finally grinding to a halt before a heavily fortified, high-security compound. Guarding the entrance was a massive, official steel plaque, State Engineering Research Institute. The middle-aged officer swiftly escorted me through a maze of corridors into a spacious, grand executive office. A distinguished, silver-haired, elderly gentleman was seated behind a massive mahogany desk. The moment his eyes locked onto me, he immediately stood up and warmly extended his hand in a hospitable greeting. Comrade Xiao Yuan, I am the director of this establishment, Yi Tiansheng. I felt slightly overwhelmed by this level of high-profile treatment and quickly shook his hand. Greetings, Director Yi. Please have a seat. Don't be formal. Following the gracious gesture of the director, I sat down. He personally poured a fresh cup of hot tea for me before cutting straight to the chase. We have been closely monitoring your career for a very long time now. Every breakthrough project you engineered at the Bai Corporation has crossed our desks and been thoroughly reviewed. Most notably, your pioneering work in battery architecture. Several of your core proprietary patents in structural safety display absolute visionary genius. Hearing this, my hand trembled slightly. Director Yi locked eyes with me, his gaze brimming with profound admiration, which is precisely why when the Bai Corporation announced they were handing Qin Shu Supreme command over the entire Fengqi project, our board was left in absolute shock. He let out a heavy, disappointed sigh. The engineering blueprint submitted by Qin Shu has been rigorously analyzed by our institute in his reckless pursuit of raw horsepower and maximum driving range. He completely bypassed the most fundamental safety protocols. To put it bluntly, that machine is not an electric vehicle. It is a literal ticking time bomb on wheels. We honestly cannot comprehend how the leadership of the Bai family could make such a catastrophically brain-dead decision. I remained completely silent, choosing not to expose the toxic personal drama behind the Bai family's choices. Furthermore, their German joint venture partners are certainly no fools, Director Yi continued. So utterly foolish. I stayed silent and chose not to explain the deep-seated bad blood with the Bai family, but our corporate partners over in Germany are certainly no fools. Principal Yi then continued, and with that, he reached inside his drawer and pulled out a confidential file, sliding it smoothly across the desk toward me. This is an urgent internal directive that the German executives explicitly sent straight to us. They have formally commissioned our institute to conduct the final, absolute safety evaluation on Qin Shu's engineering blueprint. The exact millisecond this review fails, they will immediately terminate the entire joint venture and slap the Bai family with catastrophic maximum breach of contract penalties. I flipped the document open. The German side had long harbored massive doubts regarding Qin Shu's actual technical competence. The only reason they hadn't immediately liquidated their capital was because they were waiting for a bulletproof official justification with absolute, undeniable leverage. And this impending evaluation report from our State Research Institute was destined to be the final straw that breaks the camel's back. The Bai Corporation is about to get hit with a world of absolute pain. Director Yi slowly shook his head, his expression turning grim. But this ruin is not what we want to witness. The automotive engineering sector of our nation desperately requires solid, revolutionary progress, not this suicidal, reckless chasing of clout. He locked his eyes on mine, his gaze brimming with absolute fire. Comrade Xiao Yuan, this nation needs your genius. On behalf of the State Research Institute, I am formally extending an invitation for you to join our ranks. We are currently greenlighting a classified next generation project codenamed Pangu. Our goal is to engineer the absolute safest, highest performing EV power cells on the face of the planet. And I want you to step up as the chief technical officer of this entire operation. Director Yi stood up, his tone echoing with immense gravity. As for your compensation, we are prepared to guarantee you triple your current corporate salary, along with a completely private, state-of-the-art lab and a premium, fully furnished executive penthouse. Every single resource you request, the state will back you with the absolute full might of our treasury. I answered almost instantly, without a single shred of hesitation. Director Yi, I am all in. In my previous life, I bled myself completely dry, running myself ragged for the ungrateful Bai family. And in return, they utterly ruined my life and left me to rot. In this life, being able to unleash my full potential for my country is the greatest honor I could ever dream of. By that very afternoon, my official onboarding was fully processed. The operational efficiency of the State Research Institute was mind-blowing. Within a matter of hours, my private office, my advanced testing lab, and my luxury residence were completely set up and ready to go. The exact moment I was organizing my gear, my cell phone, Zuden Liang, I picked up, Xiao Yuan, where the hell are you right now? From the other end of the line came the highly panicked, trembling voice of Bai Ningbing. I chose not to answer her pathetic question, countering coldly. What do you want? The other side went dead silent for a few agonizing seconds. Are you still completely furious with me? Look, I know that forcing you to hand over the entire project left you feeling incredibly bitter and resentful, but Qin Shu, I sharply cut her off mid-sentence. Miss Bai, between the two of us, the slate has been wiped completely clean. If you're calling me up just to whine about these useless, irrelevant matters, then I don't have a single second of spare time to waste on you. Wait, please don't hang up. Bai Ningbing desperately pleaded, her voice frantic. Xiao Yuan, I just caught wind that you've officially joined the Elite State Research Institute. Wow, her intelligence network certainly moves fast. That's correct, I deadpanned, admitting it without emotion. So what? How on earth could you do something so backstabbing? The Bai family literally sheltered and provided for you for 8 whole years. And now, the second your wings are fully grown, you just pack up and completely ditch us. What the hell do you think the Bai Corporation is to you anyway? A place where you can just barge in whenever you want and abandon whenever you feel like it. I let out an absolute scoff at her pure hypocrisy. Miss Bai, it was your own damn mouth that explicitly commanded me to pack my bags, leave the Bai Corporation, and severed all affiliations with my name. It was also your very own mouth that demanded I strip down and return every single asset the Bai family ever granted me. So why on earth are you suddenly playing dumb now? Bai Ningbing was instantly choked up, completely speechless. Her sharp tone suddenly softened, carrying a pathetic, weeping whimper. Xiao Yuan, I was completely wrong. Can you please just come back to me? You absolutely cannot. Join the State Research Institute. The Bai Corporation desperately needs you. Without your genius, what the hell is going to happen to the Fengqi project? I replied with freezing indifference. That is a disaster for Qin Shu to figure out. Qin Shu, he can't handle it. Just this afternoon, during the initial high-pressure stress test of a new battery module, catastrophic failures erupted. The data telemetry is wildly unstable, and the core thermal management system is throwing endless emergency alarms. Qin Shu has absolutely no clue how to fix this. Right now, he's just furiously screaming and picking fights with the lead engineers. Every single bit of this chaos was perfectly detailed within my proprietary data. Xiao Yuan, I'm begging you to come back. I will immediately restore you as the head director of the project. I'll even force Qin Shu to serve as your subordinate. That are all perfectly stored within my data. Chairman Yuan, please come back. And I will immediately return the position of director too. German partnership will be completely yours again, and I'll restore absolutely everything else. Just please come back to me. We can get married right this second. Every single word spewing from her mouth right now sounded utterly pathetic. Too bad for her, I was no longer the blind, lovesick fool who would be deeply moved by her desperate tears like in my previous lifetime. Bai Ningbing, do you honestly believe the entire goddamn world must constantly revolve around your whims? When you want me gone, I have to beat it, and when you want me back, I'm supposed to wag my tail and crawl right back to you? I'm terribly sorry, but I'm not your loyal little lapdog. The second the words left my mouth, I instantly slammed the phone down, permanently throwing her number straight into my blacklist. Meanwhile, inside the corporate office of the Bai Empire, Qin Shu was throwing an absolute psychotic tantrum over a mountain of corrupted data. You useless, incompetent trash. You can't even calibrate a basic thermal management system. When Xiao Yuan was running the show here, how come we never ran into a single one of these technical disasters? Seated right next to him, old Master Bai's expression grew darker and more menacing by the second. For the absolute first time, a heavy seed of doubt began to rot his confidence in his own executive decision. As twilight fell, I officially moved into my high-end executive penthouse, provided by the State Research Institute, a place a million times more luxurious than that pathetic, cramped room I had. At the Bai estate, the exact moment I was unpacking the rest of my gear, the doorbell suddenly chimed. I swung the door open to find an elegant girl with a high ponytail standing on the threshold. She was holding a massive stack of blueprints, a warm, genuine smile gracing her features. "Greetings. Are you the brilliant chief engineer, Xiao Yuan?" "That's me. And you are?" "My name is Lin Chuanying, and I am a senior engineer assigned to the Panga project team. The director ordered me to deliver the foundational Phase 1 technical files straight to your doorstep. While checking in to see if there's anything else you might need, I'm completely at your service to help you get settled in. Much appreciated. Please come on in." I stepped aside, welcoming her into the penthouse. Lin Chuanying carefully laid the schematics onto the dining table. "Chief Engineer Xiao, your revolutionary talent is already legendary within our research institute. Several of our top elite veteran scientists have openly admitted that your advanced concepts on battery safety are light years more profound than their own research." She looked up at me, her eyes brimming with pure, unadulterated professional respect. This kind of authentic, validating admiration was something I had never once experienced during my entire 8 grueling years of being treated like dirt by the Bai family. "You're already incredibly famous. Several high-level seniors have openly stated that your deep insights into battery safety protocols are far superior to even their own." She gazed at me with eyes overflowing with genuine reverence and pure awe. This profound validation was a completely foreign feeling that I had never once experienced during my entire grueling 8 years trapped with the Bai family. A week later, the progress of our ancient blueprint project was running incredibly smoothly, with the total mobilization of national backing combined with the priceless wealth of experience accumulated from my past life. We rapidly accelerated, swiftly shattering several major technical bottlenecks and critical roadblocks. Lin Sui stood right by my side, meticulously taking notes while occasionally throwing out brilliant ideas that were exceptionally profound and insightful. The sheer synergy between us was growing more flawless by the day. Right at that moment, Principal Ye's personal assistant abruptly rushed into the lab. "Engineer Fang, Pirinjipalye, request your presence in his office immediately." I instantly set down the tools in my hands and followed the assistant directly to the principal's office. Principal Yi was staring intently at his computer monitor with a deeply solemn expression. "Fang Yuan, come over. Here, take a look at this." I stepped forward. Displayed clearly on the screen was the official inspection report, sent straight from Germany. I rapidly skimmed through the contents of the document. Every single critical performance metric was glaringly flagged as a failure. The final conclusion of the report stated bluntly, this specific battery design suffers from catastrophic architectural flaws, making it utterly unfit for mass commercial production. The German side has already forwarded this exact report to the Bai Corporation principal, he said in a low, heavy voice. Simultaneously, they have issued a formal legal warning, demanding that the Bai family immediately halt the project and fully compensate them for all initial development losses, amounting to a staggering 80 million. Furthermore, they have publicly declared an absolute, permanent revocation of all core licensing agreements previously granted to the Bai family. This devastating outcome was far more severe than what I had witnessed in my previous life. Back then, that beast defective battery only triggered fatal explosions after it had already entered small-scale production. In this lifetime, due to my early departure, the apocalyptic crisis had crashed down far ahead of schedule. This was an absolute, fatal death blow to the entire Bai Corporation. Principal Yi let out a heavy, weary sigh. The second this news breaks to the public, the Bai family's stock price will instantly plummet to absolute zero. The banks will immediately break down their doors to seize assets. A multi-billion-dollar powerhouse empire could disintegrate into absolute nothingness just like that. I stared at the grim report, my heart completely cold and devoid of a single shred of pity. After all, this was the exact path chosen by Bai Ningbing and that beastly Shu. They absolutely deserve to pay the ultimate price for their own sheer stupidity. Exactly as Director Yi had grimly predicted, the catastrophic news leaked internal to the Bai Corporation and instantly triggered a massive tectonic shockwave. The exact millisecond Old Master laid his eyes upon a merciless legal notice from a German executives, his blood pressure spiked so violently that he suffered an absolute medical emergency and was rushed straight to the intensive care unit of the hospital. The entire Bai Corporation was instantly decapitated, reduced to a headless serpent. Floundering in absolute chaos, Bai Ningbing stood frozen in the sterile hospital corridor, her fingers desperately white-knuckling her smartphone. Time and time again, she aggressively tried redialing my number, only for the automated operator to mockingly repeat that the subscriber you're trying to reach is currently unavailable. Out of pure, frantic desperation, she tried dialing my old office extension before spamming calls to the main front desk of the State Research Institute. Yet, every single channel to contact me was completely dead. It was as if I had seamlessly evaporated off the face of the earth. For the absolute first time in her life, she finally realized that the exact man she had cold-bloodedly cast aside with her own hands was actually the one and only life jacket capable of keeping the Bai family afloat. By the very next morning, the Bai Corporation stock opened to an immediate, catastrophic limit-down crash. Scandalous, highly damaging headlines accusing the Bai family of falsifying technology metrics and triggering a complete collapse of the German joint venture flooded every single major financial news outlet. Inside the high-stakes emergency board meeting of the conglomerate, the institutional investors were completely losing their minds. Where the hell is that arrogant animal Qin Shu? Drag him out here right this instant to give us an answer. Who the hell authorized handing a multi-billion-dollar master project over to an incompetent, wet-behind-the-ears amateur? We demand the immediate, unconditional termination of that parasitic clown. Go beg Xiao Yuan to crawl back right now. Only Xiao Yuan possesses the elite genius required to salvage this sinking ship. Seated at the head of the long conference table, Bai Ningbing's face was completely drained of color, looking deathly pale. By that afternoon, I was walking alongside Lin Chuanying toward the campus cafeteria for lunch. The exact moment we stepped past the security gates of the State Research Institute, I spotted Bai Ningbing waiting by the entrance. The suffocating, high and mighty arrogance that usually defined her was completely gone. In its place was a hollow, thoroughly exhausted shell of a woman. The second her eyes locked onto me, she abandoned all dignity and frantically lunged forward. Xiao Yuan. The elite armed security team instantly stepped up, forcefully blocking her path. Stand down. Meng. This is a restricted, high-security state facility. No unauthorized individuals are allowed to cause a scene. Bai Ningbing completely ignored the guards, her eyes glistening with desperate tears as she yelled across the barrier. Xiao Yuan. Please, I'm begging you to look at me. Just give me 5 minutes. I stopped in my tracks, staring at her with cold indifference, while Lin Chuanying stood quietly by my side, looking on with mild curiosity. Trespass. Xiao Yuan. It's me. It's your Ningbing. She shrieked at the top of her lungs toward me. I halted, staring dead at her, with a completely frozen, hollow expression. Lin Chuanying glanced up at me, her eyes laced with deep concern. Chief Engineer Xiao, maybe we should use the side exit to avoid this scene? No need, I casually replied, my voice dripping with absolute indifference. Some things are better off being forcefully shattered face to face. I strode directly up to Bai Ningbing, looking down at her with a piercing, freezing gaze. What do you want, miss? Bai? Her eyes welled up with bloodshot tears in a split second. Xiao Yuan. I finally realized my mistake. I honestly, truly know I messed up. She sobbed hysterically right in front of the entire gathering crowd. I never should have stripped you of the project and handed it to Qin Shu. I never should have driven you away. I was completely blinded by sheer stupidity. I am so incredibly sorry too. You, I'm begging you on my hands and knees. Please come. Back. The Bai Corporation will utterly collapse without you. Grandfather has already been hospitalized. As long as you are willing to step back into the company, I will agree to every single demand you make. I'll even drop to my knees and beg you right here. As the desperate words left her lips, she actually began dropping to her knees. I barked out with freezing hostility, "Bai Ningbing, do you even remember the exact day I walked out of the Bai Corporation? Do you remember the exact words that spewed from your mouth? You explicitly stated that from that moment on, the Bai Corporation and I, Xiao Yuan, would be entirely severed without a single shred of connection. Every syllable of that statement is permanently burned into my mind. Therefore, whether the Bai Empire lives or rots into absolute oblivion has absolutely nothing to do with me. Every single word slicing from my mouth acted like a jagged, merciless blade tearing through her fragile heart. No, that's not true. Xiao Yuan, those were just reckless words spoken in a fit of blind rage. She frantically stammered, trying to justify herself. I deadpanned, cutting her off instantly while I took them as absolute gospel. Right now, I belong exclusively to the state. The Panga Project dictates the entire future automotive energy strategy of this nation. I will never abandon my sacred national duty just to salvage the pathetic personal melodrama of your corrupt family dynasty. I pivoted on my heel, fully prepared to walk away. Do yourself a favor and never show your face around here again. Cease all pathetic attempts to disrupt my research and my lifestyle. The two of us no longer belong to the same goddamn universe. With those final words, I didn't bother offering a single glance back, walking away alongside Lin Chuanying, straight toward the cafeteria. From right behind us echoed the agonizing, soul-crushing wails of a completely broken Bai Ningbing. By the very next morning, right after Bai Ningbing's humiliating public breakdown, desperately begged me for salvation, the final doom officially obliterated the Bai Corporation. That absolute animal, Qin Shu, refusing to accept his utter defeat, recklessly and forcefully jacked up the energy density of the battery cells, trying to fake the telemetry data to salvage his reputation with the German partners. As a direct result, during the brutal new high-pressure stress test, the experimental battery module completely failed to withstand the extreme thermal load and violently exploded. The initial shockwave wasn't massive, but it immediately ignited the highly flammable chemical agents stored nearby, and the entire core research lab of the Fengqi project was instantly, completely reduced to a blazing inferno. Even though the emergency fire squads arrived lightning fast and miraculously prevented any immediate civilian casualties, every single piece of advanced laboratory equipment, the irreplaceable engineering prototypes, and the foundational technical blueprints were utterly turned to ash by the raging firestorm. The Fengqi project was forced into a complete, permanent freeze. The German board of executives, upon catching wind of the catastrophic blast, immediately held an emergency international press conference, officially severing all ties with the disgraced the Bai Corporation and officially initiate standard legal proceedings to $80 million in breach of contract, penalties alongside compensation for their early-stage capital losses. The exact second that news hit the wire, the Bai Corporation stock value suffered a continuous, unstoppable, limit-down free fall for 3 consecutive trading sessions, instantly wiping out nearly $10 billion in market cap. Back in the sterile hospital ward, Old Master Bai stared at the breaking financial news, coughed up blood from pure, unadulterated shock, and once again blacked out, unconscious. By the time he finally opened his eyes, the old man looked like he had aged 20 grueling years overnight, lying helpless on the hospital mattress. He clutched Bai Ningbing's hand, his eyes overflowing with weeping tears. "Ningbing, your grandfather was a blind fool. I never should have driven Xiao Yuan away. We did this to ourselves. Have utterly ruined the entire Bai legacy." Bai Ningbing collapsed to her knees beside the bed, weeping so hysterically it felt like her soul was fracturing. "Grandfather, please don't speak like that. We still have a sliver of hope. I will do whatever it takes to beg Xiao Yuan to come back. I swear I'll make it happen. Absolutely. No one else can salvage our family from this ruin." "Old Master, I muttered in a daze, his mind slipping away. Go. Go beg him. No matter what humiliating price you must pay. Even if you have to grovel on your knees for eternity, you absolutely must. Bring that genius back. Bai Ningbing aggressively wiped away her tears, stormed out of the hospital, and drove her car straight to the security gates of the State Research Institute. This time, of the elite compound. She dropped straight onto both knees. She remained kneeling there completely motionless. Bai Corporation and aggressively launching a high-stakes legal offensive to extract an inch. In no time at all, her spectacle attracted a massive swarm of aggressive media reporters. Heiress of the Bai Empire grovels on her knees, begging her ex-fiancé for mercy. The real reason the legendary design genius was cast out. High society blood feuds exposed. All kinds of sensationalist, clickbait headlines instantly hijacked the front pages of every major mainstream news outlet. The security personnel repeatedly tried to persuade her to pack up and leave, but she was absolutely determined to stay. Planted. Unless Xiao Yuan steps out to face me, I will literally grovel. On my knees right here until I drop dead. When the updates finally flashed. Inside my private office, Lin Chuanying stared at the breaking articles on her smartphone, her eyebrows completely knitted together. She is weaponizing public opinion. To force your hand. The exact second. You refuse to walk out there and validate her. The toxic internet trolls will mercilessly flame you as a cold-blooded, heartless monster. I calmly set down the technical blueprint in my hand and cast a glance out the window, right below the high-rise building. A massive, chaotic mob had already gathered. Then let her grovel until her knees rot. I indifferently replied. Chuanying, do me a favor and notify our security department. Just tell them there is an unauthorized individual causing a severe public disturbance right outside our main gates, actively disrupting the vital day-to-day operations of a state facility. Instruct them to handle her strictly by the book. Lin Chuanying instantly caught my drift, flashing a sharp smirk. Understood. I'll make the call right now. A few minutes later, several heavily armed guards marched outside, grabbed Bai Ningbing by her armpits, and forcefully dragged her pathetic body straight off the premises. I stood quietly by the window frame, my heart completely flatlined without a single shred of emotion. In my previous lifetime, when I was wrongfully thrown behind bars and systematically tortured until my very last breath, did a single soul in the parasitic Bai family ever give a damn about whether I lived or died? Over the course of the next several days, the catastrophic downfall of the Bai Corporation devolved into an absolute death spiral. The major institutional banks completely flipped their tone overnight, dispatching ruthless asset liquidators straight to their corporate headquarters to demand the immediate, unconditional repayment of every single outstanding loan on their books. Their raw material suppliers simultaneously halted all shipments, aggressively blockading the executive lobby to demand immediate cash for their past invoices. Mass resignations triggered absolute pandemonium and blind panic across every department. But while they were burning, inside the elite research facility, my dedicated specialist team, alongside the brilliant minds led by Lin Chuanying, had successfully engineered and completed the absolute first functional prototype of the Panga battery. Throughout our rigorous internal stress testing, its technological benchmarks demonstrated an absolutely mind-blowing superiority over anything on the market. Its core safety profile was literally 5 times greater than the current global standard, while its energy density shattered the existing limits by an incredible 40%. This was an absolute masterpiece destined to completely reshape the geopolitical landscape of the entire energy sector. Director Yi was so profoundly moved that his eyes brimmed with tears as he firmly grasped my hand. Compared to every single battery chemistry currently dominating the market, while its energy density was exponentially superior to the formula of that absolute animal by over 40%. Furthermore, its absolute degradation life cycle effortlessly established a brand new, unprecedented pinnacle within the global sector. The exact second Director Yi thoroughly audited our testing documentation. His fingers were violently shaking from pure, overwhelming awe. We actually pulled it off. We revolutionized the entire industry. He immediately called an emergency executive directive to orchestrate a massive global press conference to unleash our monumental research breakthrough straight to the world stage. On the highly anticipated day of the event, every single heavyweight, mainstream international media outlet flooded the convention hall. The exact moment I stepped up onto the primary stage under the official title of Chief General Project Engineer, standing confidently before the presentation podium, and unveiled the core data sets destined to completely shatter the global energy market, the entire auditorium erupted into a chaotic frenzy of disbelief. Immediately, following the shockwave was a thunderous, deafening roar of standing ovations. Literally within the span of a single night, my name became a legendary icon whispered across every corner of the global automotive empire. By the very next afternoon, I received an incredibly shocking, high-profile, long-distance call. The individual on the other end introduced himself as an executive kingpin from an elite global automotive titan, specifically the senior vice president of corporate headquarters at Tesla. Over the encrypted line, he continuously showered my technical masterwork with absolute praise and admiration before swiftly cutting straight to a multi-million-dollar corporate poaching offer. Chief Engineer Xiao, we are extending an elite, unconditional invitation for you to officially join the ranks of Tesla, commanding the supreme corporate title of Global Director of the Advanced Battery Research Division alongside Chief Innovation Scientist. We are fully prepared to secure your signature with a staggering $10 million annual base salary, coupled with an exclusive, top-tier executive equity package in the company. You will be granted complete dominion over an independent R&D powerhouse with an absolute, unrestricted, blank check budget. We are firmly convinced that by weaponizing your generational genius alongside the colossal infrastructure of Tesla, we will indisputably reshape the entire face of modern civilization. An offer of this magnitude could easily be described as an astronomical, once-in-a-lifetime bounty. The exact millisecond I pen my signature, I would instantly attain infinite generational wealth and solidify my status as the premier, untouchable tech titan of the globe. Literally, every single industry insider assumed there was absolutely zero logical reason for anyone to reject such an intoxicating, gold-plated temptation. Even Director Yi himself, driven by intense anxiety, scrambled to my private quarters to have a serious heart-to-heart. He was utterly terrified that the pinnacle genius our nation had painstakingly nurtured. Everyone assumed I had absolutely no reason to reject such an irresistible and massive temptation. Even Principal Yi himself personally came to have a serious talk with me, utterly terrified that a rare genius the nation had worked so hard to would be ruthlessly poached away right from under our noses. But right there, in front of Director Yi, I dialed the Tesla vice president back. I immensely appreciate your high valuation of my work, but I must respectfully decline your corporate offer. My technological breakthroughs belong entirely to my homeland, and I will only deploy them to serve my country. On the other end of the line, the vice president fell completely silent for a long moment, ultimately expressing a deeply regretful, yet profound respect for my definitive choice. Director Yi, who had been standing right next to me, listening intently, gripped my hand with immense emotion. Magnificent work, Xiao Yuan. The nation did not misjudge your character. The breaking news that I had rejected Tesla's astronomical, multi-million-dollar bounty once again sent absolute shockwaves through the public. Beyond being completely awestruck by my generational technical genius, the people grew to deeply revere my absolute patriotism. Meanwhile, Bai Ningbing and that pathetic scumbag, Qin Shu, had once again crawled back to the gates of the State Research Institute. This time, I instructed security to escort them directly into my private office. I finally stood face to face with the two monsters who had systematically destroyed my previous lifetime. Bai Ningbing looked even more hollowed out and exhausted than before, while that pathetic clown Qin Shu had completely lost every single shred of that arrogant, high and mighty swagger he oozed when he first arrived. The exact second they stepped inside, that absolute joke of a man bowed his spine at a sharp 90-degree angle right before me. Xiao Yuan, I am so incredibly sorry. I finally admit that my engineering skills cannot even begin to compare to your brilliance. I was consumed by my own blind arrogance, desperately trying to flex my capabilities, and I single-handedly dragged everyone into this absolute nightmare. I am begging you, please, out of respect for old Master Bai, step in and salvage the Bai family from this ruin. Bai Ningbing instantly chimed in right after him, her voice trembling with pure, pathetic desperation. Xiao Yuan, we honestly, truly realize our sins now. As long as you are willing to step up and save the Bai Corporation, whether it's through a massive technology equity split or literally any extreme condition you demand, we will unconditionally sign it. The Bai family cannot survive another second of this torture. This company is my grandfather's entire life's work. Set Company. Behind my massive executive desk, silently listening to their pathetic, hollow confessions. If you knew this day of judgment would inevitably arrive, why the hell did you act like absolute monsters in the first place? I casually spoke up, my voice dripping with icy indifference. Think back to that afternoon inside the private office of old Master Bai. He gave you two a definitive, absolute crossroads of a choice, and you both viciously chose to put your blind faith in this fraud while completely discarding me like garbage, silently listening to their desperate, pathetic confessions. If you knew today would turn out like this, why did you ever act that way in the first place? I calmly and coldly spoke up. Back then, inside the private office of the old patriarch of the Bai clan. He gave you all a clear opportunity to make a choice. And yet you all blindly chose to trust him and completely threw me away. That was entirely your own executive choice. So right now, you must completely face the music for your own actions and swallow every single bitter pill that comes with it. That absolute clown's face instantly flushed a deep, humiliating crimson. Bai Ningbing could only let out a thoroughly hollow, miserable laugh. I completely understand your perspective now. Ultimately, you still harbor deep, burning hatred for us. I slowly shook my head. No, you've got it completely twisted. I don't hate you at all, because you too simply no longer possess the right or the relevance to even be hated by me. Now get the hell out of my sight. I coldly issued my final eviction notice. The two of them felt their souls completely leave their bodies as they stumbled helplessly out of my private office in a desperate, final attempt to salvage their collapsing corporate empire. From impending, total bankruptcy, the Bai family immediately began a fire sale of their entire asset portfolio. But every single effort was just a drop in a blazing bucket. The multi-billion-dollar financial crater, hollowed out by the Bai family, was simply too vast and catastrophic to ever be filled. Meanwhile, my own life seamlessly welcomed a beautiful, triumphant new chapter. Later that evening, Lin Xuanying and I were taking a peaceful stroll by the scenic lake inside the research complex. We casually conversed about our ongoing breakthroughs, sharing our wildest dreams for the future. Suddenly, Lin Xuanying halted her steps, pivoting to look at me with intense sincerity. Xiao Yuan, I am completely, utterly in love with you. My heart instantly skipped a beat. Ever since the exact moment you ruthlessly rejected that multi-million-dollar offer from Tesla, I realized I was totally fallen for you. I recognized that you are a man of profound genius, unwavering responsibility, and absolute undeniable capability. I am fully aware that your heart was once mutilated by deep emotional trauma, but I genuinely do not care. I simply want to make it absolutely clear to you that for every single path in our future, I want to walk it hand in hand. Right beside you. Her gaze was crystal clear, burning with unwavering devotion. I stared deeply into her eyes. Every single lingering shadow from my torturous previous lifetime at this exact millisecond was completely and permanently vaporized into nothingness. I gently reached out and clasped her hands. Xuanying, I am completely in love with you too. And just like that, we officially sealed our romantic relationship. By the conclusion of that year, the prestigious National Science and Technology Progress Awards Gala was officially hosted inside the Grand People's Hall. The legendary Panga Battery project effortlessly secured the absolute grand prize. As the visionary mastermind behind the entire operation, I represented our elite research team, stepping up onto the main stage to accept the honor. Underneath the blinding, brilliant spotlights, I proudly hoisted the Golden Championship trophy, my soul completely overflowing with deep, triumphant emotion. During my official acceptance speech, while standing before the global audience, I locked eyes with a radiant Lin Chuanying and spoke with pure happiness. Standing right here, I want to extend my deepest, most profound gratitude to one indispensable soul. She is my beautiful partner, my absolute rock, and also indebted to one person above all else. She is my girlfriend, who also the most vital professional collaborator in my entire career. Miss Lin Chuanying. It was her unwavering support and her beautiful companionship that fundamentally guided me as I walked out from the absolute dark abyss of my past. It was simultaneously her soothing tenderness and her genuine, pure heart that completely repaired the deep, lingering scars carved inside my soul. Exactly half the glory of this supreme championship trophy belongs entirely to her. Meanwhile, the disgraced by family liquidated every single asset to their name, yet they still remained drowning under the crushing debt. They had no choice but to officially submit a desperate corporate bankruptcy protection petition before the Supreme Court. The moment that devastating news reached the hospital room, old Master Bai lay paralyzed upon the clinical mattress, sobbing in absolute, uncontrollable agony. I have deeply failed my ancestors. I am an absolute disgrace to the legendary legacy of the Bai dynasty. If I had only stood my ground and forcefully kept Xiao Yuan by our side, things would never have degenerated into this nightmare. We would never have lost everything. But in this brutal universe, there has never been a medicine to cure regret. Following the total, catastrophic liquidation of the Bai Corporation, the family was forced to pack up and downgrade from their luxury estate to a decaying, cramped communal tenement block. Not long after conquering the grand prize at the National Science and Technology Awards, I officially, down on one knee, proposed to Lin Chuanying. The engagement celebration of our union was kept incredibly private. Yet the news inevitably breached containment, hijacking the absolute front pages of every prestigious international financial publication. The viral photographs captured me sliding a magnificent diamond ring onto Lin Chuanying's finger, while she flashed the most radiantly happy, sweet smile imaginable. Following the complete financial annihilation of her family, Bai Ningbing was reduced to working grueling, low-wage odd jobs just to secure enough scraps to keep herself alive. The exact second, her eyes locked onto the viral digital screen, staring at the breathless, joyous smiles shared between me and Lin Chuanying, she felt her shattered heart viciously ripped into microscopic pieces. The generational genius who was originally meant to belong exclusively to her was now lavishing that same ultimate devotion upon an entirely different woman. She suffered a total mental collapse, weeping hysterically right on the spot. From that fateful day onward, she could only rely on cheap alcohol to completely paralyze her mind day in and day out, drowning her sorrows deep inside trashy nightclubs, drinking herself into an absolute stupor. Yet, the final fate of that pathetic clone, Qin Shu, was exponentially more horrific than Bai Ningbing's downfall, because of the catastrophic laboratory explosion he triggered back then. Absolutely zero reputable automotive firms were willing to ever employ his toxic name. Unable to secure a single job, he began projecting his toxic venom onto Bai Ningbing. This is entirely your goddamn fault. Why the hell did you choose me over him in the first place? If you had just left Xiao Yuan in absolute command of that master project, the two of us would never have been reduced to this pathetic, garbage state. He viciously shifted every single shred of blame directly onto the shoulders of Bai Ningbing. The two of them constantly engaged in toxic screaming matches and physical brawls. Their childhood sweetheart, bond from the past, had utterly degraded into mutual, deep-seated hatred. Later that afternoon, I suddenly received a bleak phone call It was the veteran butler of the Bai family on the line. He informed me with a heavy voice that old Master Bai was on the absolute brink of death, and on his deathbed, he begged to see me one final time. I hesitated for a brief moment, but ultimately consented. After all, he was the only soul who had genuinely and sincerely treated me with kindness throughout my entire stay with the Bai family. Inside the sterile ward of the hospital, I stood over old Master Bai as he drew his final shallow breaths. He was tragically emaciated, reduced to nothing more than a fragile bag of bones. Spy my presence. He desperately struggled to sit up. I swiftly stepped forward to support his fragile frame. Grandfather Bai, trembling with intense emotion, he tightly locked his fingers around my hand. Xiao Yuan, you actually came. Grandfather has deeply failed you. I'm not begging you to salvage the bankrupt Bai family empire. I only beg you to find it in your heart to forgive. Please forgive Ningbing. She truly knows her sins now. In her heart, there has always been a place for you. I maintained absolute, dead silence, sensing my cold refusal to offer an empty promise, old master. While let slide his final, tragic tear, as the hands that tightly gripped mine slowly lost their strength, going completely limp. The funeral service for old Master Bai was conducted. In absolute, heartbreaking desolation, the number of attendees offering condolences was incredibly sparse. I brought Lin Chuaning alongside me to the burial ground to pay our respects. Standing before his solemn tombstone, I bowed my head profoundly low. Grandfather Bai, the wisdom and guidance you bestowed upon me, I, Xiao Yuan, will permanently carve into my very bones. Please rest in eternal peace. As for Bai Ningbing, the blood feud between us is officially washed away right here. From this moment onward, we are nothing more than absolute strangers. 2 years later, backed by the full strategic infrastructure of the state, I officially pivoted away from the state research compound to establish my own independent technology empire, armed with the absolutely peerless, untouchable advantages of our Panga battery chemistry. We systematically monopolized the global energy market. Lin Chuaning willingly resigned from her prestigious tenure at the state facility to take absolute command as the chief operating officer of our corporate empire. Under our unified, unyielding vision, the exponential growth of our enterprise shattered every barrier like an absolute juggernaut. Exactly 1 more year flashed by, and the company successfully completed its blockbuster initial public offering on the tech stock exchange. On that historic listing day, I stood proudly on the grand podium, ringing the ceremonial opening bell of the exchange floor, standing shoulder to shoulder with Chuaning, who looked breathtaking in her custom bridal white gown. That monumental day, I stood proudly upon the grand podium of the stock exchange. Standing right there beside me was Sui, looking absolutely breathtaking in a stunning dress, exuding absolute grace and pure elegance. In my tragic previous lifetime, right at this exact landmark, Bai Ningbing had stood before the cameras and publicly framed me, ruthlessly shoving me down into a bottomless abyss. In this new lifetime, I with my own 2 hands swung the ceremonial mallet, ringing in my own glorious dawn. At the exact millisecond that thunderous chime echoed through the hall, I locked eyes with Lin Chuaning standing right beside me, flashing a brilliant smile that erupted from the deepest depths of my soul. Meanwhile, following the total annihilation of the Bai family empire, in a desperate, pathetic bid to stay ahead of her mounting debts, Bai Ningbing was forced to degrade herself, working as a hostess at a low-tier nightclub. The once untouchable, arrogant eldest heiress of the illustrious Bai clan, who used to look down on everyone, was now reduced to plastering a fake, hollow smile across her face while catering to grotesque, obese men at VIP tables. The brutal reality of grinding survival, coupled with relentless mental torment, caused her to wither away, though she hadn't even crossed 30. She looked like a broken, weathered woman well past her 40s. As for that absolute scumbag Qin Shu, he had completely lost his mind, spiraling into total insanity. Ultimately, he was dragged away in a straitjacket and locked inside a high-security psychiatric asylum. 1 month after our blockbuster IPO listing, Lin Chuaning and I celebrated our union with a staggeringly lavish, elite wedding. The fairy tale ceremony was hosted along a breathtaking, sun-kissed coastline where the absolute top-tier titans of the automotive industry, alongside legendary icons from every prestigious sector, gathered to shower us with their highest congratulations. On that unforgettable day, Lin Chuanying glided down the aisle in a flawless, snow-white bridal gown, looking absolutely celestial, like a breathtaking princess straight out of a legend. Under the reverent gaze of every single elite guest in attendance, I gently slid the diamond wedding band onto her finger. Miss Lin Chuanying, from this historic day forward, do you solemnly vow to be the cherished wife of Xiao Yuan, whether in absolute opulence or grinding poverty, in peak health or devastating sickness, to fiercely love him and remain absolutely fiercely loyal to him for all eternity? Y absolutely do. She choked out through tears of pure bliss. We locked into a deep, passionate, and breathless embrace, sealing our vows. Meanwhile, Bai Ningbing stared up at a giant public electronic screen, displaying the viral footage of Lin Chuanying and me locked in that beautiful, passionate kiss, and she dissolved into uncontrollable, gut-wrenching sobs right there on the pavement. It was only at this exact, devastating moment, witnessing my ultimate triumph, that she finally completely understood the true magnitude of what she had so recklessly thrown away. The man she discarded was the single soul in this entire universe who would have loved her to his very marrow, ready to sacrifice his absolute everything just to protect her. And that exact man was someone she would never, ever reclaim for the rest of her days. He was permanently, irrevocably gone. 5 glorious years flashed by. I was walking alongside Lin Chuanying, watching our beautiful toddler son take his first clumsy, adorable steps across the lush grass, enjoying a picture-perfect afternoon, taking Lin Sui and our sweet little baby boy, who had just taken his very first clumsy steps, out to play around the sprawling, lush courtyard of our private luxury estate. We affectionately named our boy Yu, a moniker holding the deepest blessing for absolute vitality and radiant joy. Daddy, Uppy, hold Yu. He stretched out his chubby little arms, waddling as fast as his tiny legs could carry him straight toward me. I beamed with absolute joy, sweeping him high up into the air. Lin Chuanying relaxed gracefully on a patio lounge chair, staring with pure tenderness at the two anchors of her soul, a legendary, empire-building career, and an absolutely flawless, devoted family. This is indisputably the supreme, ultimate fairy tale ending of my current lifetime. It truly is an absolutely magnificent reality.